Osamu took another sip of coffee from his cup, fully aware he probably shouldn't be drinking that stuff after dawn, but he planned on staying awake a little bit longer anyways. Maybe that was just an excuse for drinking it though. He sort of liked the way the warm liquid filled him up, somehow easing the feeling of loneliness that had built up in his stomach over the past couple of days. He sighed as he put the empty cup down before he unplugged the charger that was blinking in a bright green color, indicating that the battery he had been charging was now ready to be used. His cold fingers gently pushed it into the camera before he turned on the radio and threw himself into work. Osamu recently started working on a blog, and while he absolutely loved his work at the onigiri shop, he had started to develop a passion for cooking dishes that weren't savory lunch options. In fact, he was really into baking recently. He really sucked at it though. The egg whites never ended up stiff enough, and the cream cheese frosting he tried to make last week was a liquidy mess. He wouldn't let a failure to discourage him though. No, he was way too proud to just give up. Practice makes perfect, right? He knew that, and even if he was never going to succeed in baking, at least he could tell himself one day that he had truly tried his best. He planned on trying to cook 2 things today. One of them was a chocolate cake with white chocolate ganache, and the second thing he planned on doing that day were candied oranges. Osamu decided to follow a recipe found on YouTube. It seemed to be quite foolproof and simple enough for a beginner like him to follow, and while he really wanted to experiment with the ingredients and come up with his very own recipe, he knew that it was probably for the best to learn the basics first. So he bit his tongue and quietly followed the recipe, step by step, yet things somehow turned out incredibly different. Firstly, he didn't have a thermometer, so he had to guess the things. Then he quickly noticed how different the texture of his oil flour mixture looked compared to the one in the video. His desire to experiment and switch one ingredient for another one overtook him somehow and resulted in him adding cocoa powder and coffee to the cake batter instead of vanilla. Happy with his adjustments, he popped the cake into the oven, almost dropping it during the progress. Osamu then quickly cleaned up the mess he made before he started working on the oranges. Step 1. Wash them. Step 2. Scrape off the peel. Step 3. Punch holes and let them soak in water, then boil them for 5 minutes. Step 4. Change the water and boil it for 15 minutes. Step 5. Let sit in water for 2 days, changing the water 3 times daily. The oranges were done and the cake was baked and currently cooled down. Maybe I should call my blog How Not to Cook blog. Osamu stared at the sad looking cake in front of him. It wasn't fluffy at all, and he wasn't sure whether it was due to the adjustments he had made or because he had gotten the baking time wrong and had to pop it into the oven a total of 2 more times. Why do I suck so much at this? The taste was that mattered, wasn't it? Osamu nodded in an attempt to cheer himself up as he measured the whipping cream and the white chocolate. 90-gram chocolate, 30-gram whipping cream. Heat the cream and then pour it over the white chocolate. Easy and definitely foolproof. Once the chocolate was melted, he added some purple food coloring, waited for around 10 minutes and then started to spread it over his crumbling cake that had a bunch of cracks and gaps everywhere but somehow didn't yet fall apart. He threw some sprinkles on top and waited for it to sit. What now? He thought to himself, checking the clock. 10:30. Atsumu was late again. Should he wait for him to return home or just go to sleep? The sound of the door opening snapped him out of his thoughts. Yo, Atsumu, you're late. How's practice? Osamu yelled from the kitchen. See, I told you he'd be awake. He's always working on his blog these days. But it's kinda rude to disturb you guys now. It's pretty late already. A familiar voice rang through Osamu's ears as he popped his head through the door frame. A pair of yellowish eyes were looking right into his own. Yo, Osamu, it's been a while. How have you been doing? Suna greeted. Osamu, who had never had any trouble speaking to people before, recently found it incredibly difficult to find the right words to say whenever Suna was around. He felt his face flushing, quickly turning his gaze away from his ex-teammate's eyes. What's it smell? It smells really good, Atsumu yelled as he pushed his way past his brother. You made cake? Oh wow, it looks like shit. You look like shit.